Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. The beast taming ring flickered with 5 types of light, and there were 5 spirit rat kings running around the ring. They were very cute, but their demonic power was sky-piercing and abnormally terrifying. Brother Feng Yi. Nguduong Yu cried out in panic, why are you fighting for no reason? However, his eyes were as still as water, without the slightest hint of panic. His hands moved like wheels, forming a seal in front of him, and then covered the sky. The falling momentum of the beast taming ring stagnated, as if it was suspended in the air, unable to fall. The light and shadow of the 5 rats ran faster and faster, appearing very impatient. Che Shuyao moved as well. He leaned forward and threw a punch at the sunfish boat's face. Martial sovereigns were usually very careful when they fought. One careless move could lead to death. His punch was mediocre. It was merely a condensation of Emperor Qi and a breakthrough of Tao with force. When the sunfish boat's hands blocked the beast-taming hoop, it had no time to receive the attack. When the 2 of them joined forces, they didn't need to use their full strength. As long as they could attack and defend, they would be more than enough. Boom. The punch landed on Duong Yu's face, and Che Shuyao's pupils contracted. Duong Yu didn't dodge, and his body was twisted by his punch. He even smiled and disappeared. The 5 elements beast taming ring in the sky suddenly lost its resistance and suddenly fell. Feng Yi was shocked and hurriedly waved his hand, summoning the beast taming ring back and holding it in his hand. Both of them were extremely shocked and became alert with their backs to each other. Their divine senses covered the entire area within a radius of several miles, guarding against the slightest movement. Duong Yu could actually escape from their eyes, which made their faces very ugly. You 2 are too mean. Since you don't welcome me, then I'll go play by myself. This place is getting more and more interesting. Duong Yu's voice came from the sky, and after a few rises and falls, it disappeared from their sight. Feng Yi's face was gloomy, revealing killing intent. He said hatefully, we can't let this person live. Otherwise, he will bring us great trouble. Che Shuyao relaxed his yuan qi and said in a deep voice, you saw it just now. His strength might be above you and me, so how did you kill him? For now, let's first find a place to complete your 5-element beast controlling ring, then we'll have a greater chance of killing him. I didn't expect that a piece of news would attract a martial supreme. I originally thought that you and I were the only ones in the demon plains. Since Duong Yu can come, there might be other experts. Let's go to another place first. This illusion is too big, no one should be able to find us in any place. When I finish refining the 5 elements beast taming ring, I'll break this illusion and capture the Rat Emperor. With a thought, the 2 of them disappeared. Big Brother Yunxiao, did you find any flaws? Somewhere within the water moon mirror flower enchantment, as the sky shattered and the scenery changed, everyone from the Hall of Holy Fire rejoiced. However, they quickly discovered that the illusion in front of them was not any better than before, and seemed to be much more serious. Yi Fan could sense that Noah's ship was right in front of him, but he couldn't find the right direction. Standing on the chariot, Yunxiao looked around, and the look in his eyes grew more and more serious. Don't worry, I already have some clues. At least I now know the layout of the formation. It's one barrier over another, layer by layer, and I'm sure. Even if the mountains and rivers disappear, there will still be other illusionary realms. I've heard of this formation before. It's like a box being placed on top of another box, and the deeper you go, the more powerful it becomes. However, this arrangement was extremely exquisite. If there was a slight negligence, all the previous efforts would be wasted. If it's this kind of barrier, it'll be amazing if you can put on 3 of them. So, if we break this one and another one, we'll be able to get in? Feng Zhu's eyes lit up. Tao Qian wasn't sure, so he said conservatively, I'm talking about ordinary formation masters. However, Tang Guang is known as the #1 formation master, a martial sovereign on the king level. He's much more powerful than them. He might be able to trap 5 or 7 of them. Feng Zhu's face immediately darkened as he turned to Yunxiao and said, "You seem to have some understanding of soaring light. How many do you think he can put on at most?" Yunxiao was observing carefully when his thoughts were interrupted by the two. If Teng Guang were to focus on this kind of interlocking barrier arrangement, it wouldn't be a problem to create about 108,000 of them. 108,000. Feng Zhu was stunned for a moment before he laughed. Do you think he's a God Realm expert? Even if it's the God Realm, there's still a limit. Yunxiao gave him a cold look and said, as long as you grasp the essence of this formation within a formation, you can set it into an infinite number of formations. However, Tang Guang wasn't so bored. Since this formation was something he was so proud of, there must be something special about it. If I'm not wrong, this should be 4 environments connected together, a repeated cycle with no beginning or end. A repeated cycle with no beginning and no end? Feng Zhu was shocked. What does this mean? Can't we get out? Yunxiao was also a little vexed. Look at the surroundings, the vegetation is in spring, and the scenery is full of life. This should be the rule of the earth spring. If I'm not wrong, this is the power of the 4 seasons. It's the 4 great enchantments, and spring goes and autumn comes, summer falls and winter rises. It's endless. This is in line with his aesthetic. Then what do we do? When Yi Fan heard this, his head started to throb. This was already beyond his understanding. The rest of the people were also confused, as if they were listening to a heavenly book. There are only 2 ways, Yunxiao said. One is to break the formation by force. We can't count on it. We don't know if there are any other experts trapped in it. Only by breaking the laws of the spring, summer, autumn, and winter earth could he escape. The second is to comprehend the power of the 4 seasons and use the laws of the earth for my own use. I'll be able to transcend and directly walk out of the illusion. He saw that everyone was still at a loss, so he reached out and patted the chariot lightly. For example, this is the rule of the earth spring. The place he had casually patted actually began to sprout, forming a seedling that grew vigorously. After a few breaths of time, a small flower bloomed, and then it stopped. The people of the Temple of Holy Fire all had their mouths wide open, looking at the flower in disbelief. Feng Zhu even went up and took it off. He looked at it in his hand and even sniffed it a few times. He said in shock, "What's it? You've already mastered the power of spring?" Yunxiao said, "I've mastered it before. The reason why I can do it now is because this illusionary realm is formed by the power of spring, and I'm just using it casually. Normally, one would have to condense their own nomological rules to do so. How could it be so casual and simple? Besides, even if I have that kind of enlightenment, I'm too weak to compete with the person controlling the illusion. Unless my cultivation is higher than his and I can control the eye of the formation, I can take control of the formation." Had he mastered it before? Everyone was stunned and didn't quite understand. However, there were too many things that they didn't understand, so they didn't think about it carefully. At this moment, little Qing, who was in the center of the array, was greatly shocked. Yunxiao's grab of the power of laws just now was so casual and easy, just like the controller of the array. Then there was only one possibility, and that was that he had already comprehended the rules of the 4 seasons, which was why he could use them. At the thought of this, he was completely dumbfounded. The power of the 4 seasons was the law of the earth. If his original body was not the array's eye, he would not be able to control it with his strength. His confidence that everything was under his control began to waver. Their wariness of Yunxiao even surpassed that of the other martial sovereigns. "You've said so much, have you found a way out?" Feng Zhu asked. "No, I didn't." Yunxiao shook his head and said, "But it's not impossible. I've thought of the best way to break the formation." "What's the best method?" Yi Fan asked. Yunxiao stared at him and smiled, but he did not answer. Instead, he began to think. The war chariot quieted down. No one dared to disturb him. The environment here was no longer something they could deal with, so they had placed all their hopes on Yunxiao. What is the best method? An extremely impatient voice suddenly asked. The entire Tiger King fell silent, and the atmosphere became tense and heavy. Because the question just now was not asked by anyone on the chariot. Feng Zhu's expression changed, and he reached out to grab the space. The space shook and a shadow flickered, gently landing on the chariot. Fluctuations also appeared in 2 other places, and 2 figures appeared one after another. The 3 of them were wearing light blue jackets. They were from the Soul Devourer clan. Their faces were cold and arrogant. They looked at them from the corner of their eyes as if they were receiving great kindness. The Soul Devourer clan. Yunxiao's eyes flickered. He recognized the outfit at once, and he was shocked. The Soul Devourer clan was extremely mysterious and strange, and the cultivation techniques they cultivated were even more evil. His soul battle techniques were learned from the Soul Devourer clan, and the 3 people in front of him had suppressed everyone's aura as soon as they appeared. Their strength was evident. The people of the Temple of Holy Fire also retreated instantly and surrounded the 3. Everyone was on guard as if they were facing a great enemy. The aura these 3 people gave them was too cold and powerful. Especially Zhang Xiaotian, even Feng Zhu and Cheguang, the 2 martial venerables, felt extremely depressed. Humph, you're quite knowledgeable, kid. Tell me how to break this formation. At that time, I can spare your life. Zhang Xiaotian and the others had long caught up and wanted to make a move, but they found that the surrounding environment wasn't right, so they endured until now. Moreover, there seemed to be some kind of power in this array that made them extremely uncomfortable, and they became a little irritated. Yunxiao sneered, "Spare my life? The 3 of you must be joking. Don't you soul devourers love to collect and condense living souls? How come I didn't know that you could show great mercy?" He crossed his arms in front of his chest and made a small gesture. Yi Fan and the others immediately understood. They knew that they were going to attack. They lowered their auras and prepared for a thunderous strike. Zhang Xiaotian was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, "It seems like you have some understanding of our Soul Devourer clan. If you're sensible and submit to me, I can be merciful this once." Yunxiao smiled, and his eyes narrowed slightly as he said, "Does Huangfu Bai know that you're so awesome?" Huangfu Bai was the sect master of the Soul Devourer sect. As soon as Yunxiao said his name, Zhang Xiaotian and the other 2 were taken aback, somewhat confused. Eye technique restriction. Yunxiao's eyes turned into blood moons in an instant, and an extremely powerful attack rushed out. The surroundings shook, and the spring scenery changed into a black space that spread out. Spiritual attack. Zhang Xiaotian's heart trembled and he immediately realized that he had been hit. However, he snorted and a green light flashed in his hand. He gently drew in the air and broke the black space. Their greatest ability was to condense their soul, and ordinary spiritual attacks were not worth mentioning. Just as the black space shattered, the people from the Hall of Holy Fire also attacked. Feng Zhu and Qiguang attacked at the same time. Their targets were Zhang Xiaotian's 2 junior brothers. The 2 junior brothers were only 1-star martial supremes. They had just been dragged out of the spiritual space, so they panicked and cried for help. Trash. Zhang Xiaotian coldly cursed. If he didn't need some loyal subordinates, he wouldn't care about the life and death of these 2 people. He would step out to save them. Power of Spring, bind. Go. Yunxiao cried out softly as he slapped his palm into the air. A large number of branches and vines rushed over from all directions and wrapped Zhang Xiaotian up. Those branches and vines were very ordinary, but a large amount of aura poured out of them and kept seeping into Zhang Xiaotian's body. This is a Kasaya. Zhang Xiaotian was shocked. That power made him very uncomfortable. It was almost suppressing his own power and constantly eating away at his body. The Soul Devourer sect cultivated the art of the dead, and they were naturally contaminated with death energy. This spring life QI was a natural counter to them, and they were suppressed to the extreme. This was also the reason why he felt uncomfortable the moment he entered the barrier of spring. A mere ant dares to attack. The vital qi in his dantian circulated, and all the spring aura retreated from his body. The vines and branches were directly reduced to powder. The aura of death spread out and the surroundings immediately became cold. Fengzhu and Qiguang were also affected. Seeing Zhang Xiaotian step over, they quickly retreated. The moment Zhang Xiaotian was released, Yunxiao squatted down and slapped his palm on the chariot, his fingertips quickly drawing symbols. A stream of power quickly spread out from those symbols and rushed out of the chariot. The entire chariot suddenly fell into a daze, and Yunxiao's eyes lit up with joy as he said to himself, "I'm not going to let you go." As expected. Zhang Xiaotian was shocked. He hurriedly sent out a palm strike. The strong wind shot through the air as fast as lightning, but it was still a step too late. It directly passed through the shadow left by the Tiger King chariot and exploded in the distance. "Senior brother, what happened? They've escaped?" A junior brother said with a lingering fear. Just now, under the sudden attack of Feng Qi, he almost died without being able to take a single move. At this moment, his face was extremely pale. The arrogance from before was completely gone. "It's all because of you two useless pieces of trash. Damn it." Zhang Xiaotian cursed, "If it wasn't to save you, how could they have escaped from me?" However, he revealed a cold expression, and his eyes flickered with a bright light as he said proudly, "I've already left a mark on the chariot. It'll follow them to break this formation. At that time, we'll capture them and extract their souls and treasures." Under the effect of Yunxiao's array, the Tiger King chariot disappeared from the barrier of spring. When it reappeared, it was a desert with no one around. The scorching sun shot down from the sky, and even the warriors felt their skin prickling. "This is Wufu." Yifan opened his eyes and felt a sharp pain. He had some guesses, but he couldn't help but ask. "I was right," Yunxiao said with a smile. "This is the barrier of summer. This place is really connected by the 4 seasons. This is really troublesome. If we don't break it, the cycle will repeat, and we will never be able to walk out of this illusion. Then what should we do? Didn't you say that you have a good way to break the formation?" Fengzhu hurriedly asked. Yunxiao did not answer, but turned to Yifan and asked, "How's your sensing?" Yifan closed his eyes. After sensing it, he shook his head. "I'm in a trance, it's a little hard to grasp." "If that's the case, then we don't have to rush." He stretched out his hand, and a burning flame danced on his palm. He said, "This place is completely condensed from the laws of earth. Everyone, use your heart to comprehend it. Cultivating here will be of great benefit." "Training?" Fengzhu's eyes almost popped out as he cried out, "You're still in the mood to cultivate at a time like this?" "It's an opportunity that can't be missed," Yunxiao said with a smile. "It's a lost opportunity. You may not encounter such an illusion a second time in your life. Moreover, Tengguang wanted to set up this 4 seasons barrier, and I'm afraid he must have given up quite a few treasures as the formation's eye to be able to condense the regulations of Earth into a formation. In the entire heavenly martial realm, he's the only one with such attainments." "Young Master Yun, there's no rush in your cultivation," said Tao Can after coughing twice. "We can't just wait here all the time, right? There must be a goal. Is it to wait for the young master's calling to become stronger?" Yunxiao did not seem to be in the mood to listen to them. He closed his eyes and slowly sensed the flow of the power of summer, then said casually, "You can say that. Don't forget that Yifan was not the only one who felt it. Now Tang Jie should also be in the 4 seasons barrier. With the help of those big demons, they should be able to find Noah's ship for us. At that time, we'll just go and rob them, so before that, everyone needs to rest well." Robbing the great demon Swan and I. Everyone had a bitter look on their faces. They only wanted to fish in troubled waters and hoped to find a chance to seize Noah's ship and face those big demons head-on. There was no chance at all. Big brother Yunxiao is right. Let's all calm down and cultivate. We have nothing to do now anyway, so it's good to be able to cultivate for a while more." Although Yifan was also mumbling in his heart, Yunxiao's strength and vision along the way had already won their great admiration. Without Yunxiao, they would have been wiped out a long time ago. So, although he had doubts in his heart, he chose to obey unconditionally and began to comfort the dejected people. Meanwhile, Yunxiao had already sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to regulate his breathing. Upon closer inspection, his body was emitting a layer of heat, and it contained a lot of spiritual energy. It was as if his skin was automatically taking in and releasing the spiritual qi around him, replacing his nose and mouth to breathe. Yi Fan was very surprised to see this. He did not know what kind of cultivation technique Yunxiao was using. He thought that Yunxiao was about the same age as him, but he had such profound attainments, which was closely related to his perseverance in improving his cultivation all the time. He could not help but admire him. Everyone in the Temple of Holy Fire looked worried, but they had no choice but to sit down cross-legged as well. Who knew if they were cultivating or not? At this moment, the one who was the most shocked was little Qing, who was at the center of the formation. With a serious expression, he formed an incantation with one hand and a flame qi rose from his hand. In the next moment, a pair of bright eyes as big as lanterns slowly emerged in the sky above the Tiger King chariot, staring at Yunxiao with surprise and bewilderment. He was no stranger to Yunxiao's cultivation method, and he had been cultivating in this way all this time, which was the law of earth, the power of 4 seasons. However, he was able to do so because the barrier of the 4 seasons was created by the martial sovereign, Tungguang, using his own body. It was connected to his mind, and that was why he could do as he pleased and cultivate with the help of the formation. However, the young man in front of him was only a martial arts grandmaster and had nothing to do with the supreme law of the earth. However, his words and actions contained the law. His eyes gradually turned sharp. At this moment, Yunxiao was constantly washing his body and meridians with the power of summer, absorbing the power of laws from all parts of his body and then exhaling them to obtain great benefits. Soon, the people of the Hall of Holy Fire also felt the benefits, and each of them looked shocked and overjoyed, especially Fengzhu and Qiguang, the 2 martial honors. They had a certain understanding of the power of rules, and now that they felt it, they were overjoyed, knowing that Yunxiao was telling the truth. But, their feeling was completely different from Yunxiao's, who was completely immersed in it. Except for Tengguang, there was no second person in the realm of heavenly martial arts who could condense the power of rules into an array. If those superpowers were to find out that the formation here was actually formed from the laws of earth, they would have long since turned it into a forbidden area for their own disciples to cultivate in. After swallowing a large number of martial will Dao fruits and absorbing a vast amount of primordial qi, Yunxiao broke through to the level of 3 stars martial grandmaster. After that, he swallowed the heavenly soul herb. The powerful soul power nourished his soul, and the spiritual energy contained in the herb was directly absorbed by his dantian. It settled down bit by bit, and he had reached the peak of his cultivation. If he was an ordinary martial artist, he would have broken through several levels in a row, but only he knew how bitter it was. At this moment, the large amount of vital qi that he had accumulated finally stepped into a higher level under the scouring of the rule power of summer. A light of 6 directions realm glowed faintly on his body. He had stepped into the realm of a 4 stars martial grandmaster. The pair of lantern-like eyes in the sky could no longer hold back and shot out rays of cold light. Qing's face appeared behind those eyes, and its entire body appeared in the sky, looking down coldly. Yunxiao opened his eyes slightly and said with a smile, "Since you're here, then come down." His words shocked everyone in the Hall of Holy Fire. They came out of their comprehension and looked up, all on high alert. They didn't know where little Qing had appeared and how long it had been there. Even now that he was seeing it with his own eyes, he only felt that it was hazy and not very real. How can you control the power of spring and summer at will? With an expressionless face, Qing stared at Yunxiao coldly and went straight to the point, its tone filled with extreme dissatisfaction and hostility. Yunxiao frowned. He did not like the other party's attitude, so he laughed and stretched his back. "Young man, is this how you talk to your savior?" Everyone in the Hall of Holy Fire had seen Little Green before and knew that it was the manifestation of the ancient evergreen tree. Suddenly, sweat broke out on their foreheads. Could there be anyone older than him in the heavenly martial arts realm? The young man was stunned. Qing Zhu's face turned cold and it snorted, "Young man? Humph, did you save me out of good intentions?" You're also controlling Xiao Wu, right? He asked coldly. Yunxiao met his cold eyes and said coldly, so I saved you for nothing? Do you think I need to tell you? Qing said, since this flower in the water moon mirror is here, I don't think he has any good intentions. I'm afraid they're here for my main body. Even if he is, so what? Yunxiao did not back down at all. The two of them faced each other, and the atmosphere grew colder and colder. Under the summer sky, there was also a trace of cold air. Qing Zhu's pupils contracted and killing intent shot out. It coldly said, then die. Rules of summer blazing sun. He shouted as he pointed his finger down. A sun formed at his fingertip, becoming more and more dazzling, not the slightest bit inferior to the one in the sky, and slowly descended. The enormous heat wave rushed towards them, and the people of the Hall of Holy Fire were all shocked. They saw that the entire Tiger King chariot was beginning to melt, and they desperately circulated their vital qi to resist the heat wave. However, their skin was still rapidly losing moisture and began to crack. I like the scorching sun. One qi of creation, keep. Yunxiao walked up to the sun, and under the dumbfounded gazes of the crowd, the sun was absorbed into his body. At that moment, his strong body swelled up a little, and his skin was bronze in color, emitting a faint glow. After the sun was absorbed into his body, his entire body shone with a brilliant light. The light illuminated his bones, muscles, and surging blood. His entire body was almost transparent. However, in just a breath's time, the light gradually dimmed, as if it was being digested by his body. The aura on his body also rose steadily. Qing's eyes widened in shock. Body technique? He had discovered that Yunxiao could absorb his sun directly not only because he had mastered the power of summer, which could turn the sun into a tonic, but also because his body was so strong that he could digest the overbearing power. It's none of your business. Now, you have a taste of my scorching sun. After absorbing the power of the sun, Yunxiao's aura rose to the level of a 4-star martial grandmaster. With a shout, he pointed a finger up into the sky, and a similar sun appeared on his fingertip before it suddenly shot out. Qing's brows furrowed. He could clearly feel the power of summer in the surroundings, constantly pouring into the sun, growing bigger and bigger like a rolling snowball. Yunxiao's perception and control of the power of summer were actually above his own. Although I don't know how you did it, I can't let you live. Open. Little Qing shouted. The blazing sun that was charging at him suddenly disintegrated like a blooming firework, its light blinding. He was the one who controlled the formation, and he had the highest authority. Since the rule of the earth is ineffective against you, then try my rule of the heavens, lightning. As his voice fell, the blazing sun in the sky dissipated, and dark clouds appeared, with lightning and thunder. The people of the Temple of Holy Fire were all dumbfounded. In the face of such a duel of rule power, they only felt that they were weak and could not help at all. Bolts of lightning fell from the sky and gathered on Qing's palm, gradually becoming stronger. His face, which was illuminated by the lightning, turned pale green, and he was expressionless. Yunxiao's heart trembled. The thunderbolt was so strong that if he could not withstand it, he was afraid that everyone except him and the two martial venerables would be turned into ashes. You want to play big, right? Don't think that you're awesome just because you have a light ball in your hands. If you anger me, I'll make sure you're consigned to eternal damnation. A fire cloud appeared between his brows. After his soul power advanced to the 6th rank, he could finally manifest the true phoenix fire. Although it was extremely small, it was a genuine divine fire. With the appearance of the divine fire, the people of the Temple of Holy Fire were all shocked and scattered in all directions. Feeling the terrifying aura, they were all frightened. True phoenix fire. Qing Zhu cried out in shock, its eyes filled with disbelief as it muttered to itself, no wonder Lil followed you. It turns out that you have the divine fire, which is enough to let him be reborn again. He quickly regained his composure and said coldly, but how much power can you control with this kind of divine fire? If you're not careful, you'll be the first one to be turned into ashes. Yunxiao's face was filled with ruthlessness, and under the illumination of the flames, he looked a little crazy as he said ferociously, if you're afraid, just say it. You can try how much power it can unleash. He formed a few seals with his hands, then slowly separated them after putting them together. He clenched his fists, and a piece of pale yellow dust appeared between his palms. There were starlight jumping around it. As he struggled to open his hands, the earth gradually formed around the dust, and the space sank as if it was being pulled by the infinite gravity and began to collapse rapidly. This time, Qing's expression finally changed. It was even more shocked and aghast than when it saw the true phoenix flame. The power of thunder and lightning on its body became extremely unstable, and just like its mood, it flickered non-stop with a pa-pa sound. He seemed to have spent a great deal of effort to spit out a few words, and said in a deep voice, "Living Earth." The moment the breathing earth appeared, Little Green was truly intimidated. It stood in the sky and didn't move at all. The expression on its face showed that it was struggling. "You're quite knowledgeable, even though my cultivation is a few realms lower than yours. However, your physical injuries are too severe. How much have you recovered? With these 2 treasures, I can destroy you in both body and soul." Yunxiao stood proudly, as if he would kill whoever stood in his way. The people of the Temple of Holy Fire were dumbfounded. The 2 things on Yunxiao only existed in legends, and now they were in the hands of the same person. No wonder he had always been so awesome. Yi Fan and the others suddenly had a feeling that they had no choice but to accept this. Along the way, this martial arts grandmaster youth had countless trump cards and extraordinary knowledge, allowing them to escape danger step by step. Now, 2 of these legendary items had appeared at once. Who knew what other things he had on him? Chang had the same feeling. Although it did not see Yunxiao smash the cauldron of mountain and river that day, the profound artifact that crushed the Armillary Sphere's heavenly axis had made it very wary. He was very clear that the Armillary Sphere was a super-grade mystic artifact that was no less powerful than Noah's ship. Although it was almost exhausted after the battle that day, it was not something that ordinary mystic artifacts could suppress and shatter. Yunxiao's face was filled with an arrogant look, as if he was saying, "Come and hit me. Hit me. Hit me." In fact, he was already extremely depressed. After the Divine Realm tablet had been worn out many times, it was now at its end. He had no choice but to take out the 2 ultimate treasures that could suppress the territory to boost his confidence. He didn't have the confidence to use any of them at all, let alone 2 at the same time. Moreover, it was already very difficult and strenuous for him to maintain such an obvious state. How could Qing not see Yunxiao's strong look? But, the genuine phoenix true fire and the earth-breathing earth below still made him extremely afraid. Furthermore, over the years, he had seen all kinds of geniuses and figures. The aura of the young man in front of him was just like those unparalleled experts, unruly and disdainful. "You're really not spying on my true form?" Shao Qing finally decided to call a truce and asked with a frown. A contemptuous look appeared in Yunxiao's eyes as he snorted and said, "Although your original body is not bad, how is it compared to the true phoenix fire and the breathing earth? Other than Noah's ship, do you think there's anything else here that's worth my attention?" The lightning on Qing's body gradually disappeared, and the dark clouds in the sky also dispersed. The scorching sun rose into the sky, and the hot weather was once again restored. "I hope you're telling the truth," he said coldly to Yunxiao. "Otherwise, you'll be the first one I kill." Yunxiao breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly put away the true phoenix flame and the earth-breathing earth. He had almost exhausted all the yuan qi in his body, and large beads of sweat had seeped into his forehead. But, he still pretended to be fine and said, "You're thinking too highly of yourself. However, I do need your help with something." "What's the matter?" Chang said indifferently. Yunxiao put away his frivolous look and said in a serious voice, "I want to go to the ancient barons." Qing Zhu's pupils shrank. It glanced at him and turned around to leave. It said indifferently, "We'll talk about it later. If there's a chance, I can help you. Consider it as returning the favor." "Humph, you still know that I saved your life. If you're taken by those great demons," Yunxiao said disdainfully, "you'll really be doomed." Qing Zhu's face flashed with a trace of fierceness, and its figure gradually disappeared in the air. As if he suddenly remembered something, Yunxiao shouted at the sky, "Wait. Is Noah's ship really here? Where is it?" No comment. Qingzhu's figure completely disappeared into the sky, leaving behind only these 4 words that reverberated in the sky.